Mike Ralston from Blencowe joins us now. Blencowe's got the Orram Cross Graphite project in Uganda. What is the Orram Cross Graphite project, Mike? And tell us a little bit about what's happening there.
It's a world-class graphite deposit located in East Africa, in Uganda, as you say. It's huge, estimated 2 to 3 billion tons, although we'll probably never drill it out in its entirety because it goes on for 19 kilometers in one direction and down below 100 meters in other directions as well. So it's a huge deposit. We've got a 24 million ton chalk resource, which we're hoping to double through a drilling program that will commence shortly. We've been developing this project for the last 4 to 5 years. We've completed a lot of drilling, a pre-feasibility study, and we're now in the definitive feasibility study stage.
So you're pretty well advanced, and there's big news out today on a very interesting new initiative that you guys are part of, Project SAFELOOP. Now, tell us what this is.
Well, SAFELOOP is an initiative that's been brought together under the Project Horizon, which is the European Commission's renewable energy transition program. They've allocated 100 billion euros to effectively help Europe transition. And this is one of the initiatives, a very key initiative, because ultimately what we're doing within SAFELOOP is building what they call a Generation 3 lithium-ion battery, which will be specifically looking at safety and also looking at recycling a lot of the components within that battery. But ultimately, this battery is going to go into a standardized EV bus that will be deployed across the entire continent. So it's a very prestigious for us to be brought into SAFELOOP. And we're very proud to have been invited as an exclusive party to deliver and supply all of the natural flake graphite into this project going forward.
So it looks good for Blencowe to be invited into this, but what are the advantages for Blencowe itself in the short term and also in the longer term?
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages. I think the first one is that we're going to be the exclusive supplier of all natural flake graphite into SAFELOOP. There's a long-term annuity income stream that we can get out of this through Western offtake partners who will pay a lot more money for the product that we will sell in there than you get out of the Asian market. So ultimately, we might be ramping this thing up towards 100,000 tons of small flake concentrate, which represents about 50% of what we end up producing. And that's a big number. And at the prices that we're talking about, it can be very profitable. It's a very low-cost project entry for us. And obviously, it's showcasing high quality of Orram Cross's graphite worldwide. Furthermore, we're going to be getting or seeking an EU green passport as part of this process, which opens up a lot of doors for us for other European offtake partners going forward. So there's a lot of credibility at stake here. We think that our project is pretty unique, and that's why we've been chosen. But at the same time, I think it provides a lot of differentiation to our peers. And it opens up a huge positive return annuity income stream for us going forward, which we're obviously going to have a very strong look at as this project develops over the next couple of years.
So we're talking about big exposure to Western markets here as opposed to the traditional Asian markets. What does this mean for the way the company sees itself? And also, what does it mean for the impact in terms of development, completion and rollout?
Well, we announced to the market not too long ago, a couple of months ago, that we were building a downstream processing strategy, which means that we want to be involved in the beneficiation, the purification of graphite from a 95-96% concentrate right through to the spheronized purified graphite 99.95. We think that's a huge part of where graphite miners need to go. There's a lot more money in the downstream processing. And that strategy is hugely indicative of where we want to go and where we want to showcase the company and our project going forward. Big advantages. And that will take up an enormous amount of our small flake concentrate as we produce it from Orram Cross going forward. This SAFELOOP initiative is another channel for the same type of product, the same small flake concentrate. Instead of it going through our SPG facility and ultimately into the the international markets as a purified product. We'll just be selling it as a concentrate into SAFELOOP, and some of our project partners in there who are ultimately producing the anode and ultimately the battery will be buying from us. So we have different channels, different sales channels that we're producing, which I think de-risks what we're doing. So we're not just putting all our eggs in one basket. Ultimately, the project is big enough that we can be producing as much as all of these end users want. So we'll scale up accordingly once we really get a bit closer to production and we understand exactly what everyone wants and how much and when. But instead of just sitting back, looking to sell a very low value concentrate into Asia, get beaten up by the end users there who are literally offering very meager returns to the graphite miners selling concentrate into those markets at the moment, we're choosing to do it differently. We're choosing to go and find different strategies, different end uses, different ways and means by which we can deliver the end result that the company and the shareholders need to make this a valuable project, and obviously to get it funded in the first place, because if it's not going to have the commercial value, it's just not going to get funded. So yeah, we're very excited about both of these initiatives. They both have tremendous value, and as I said earlier, they both differentiate us considerably from our peers.
I mean, you talk about the different channels available to Blencowe now. I mean, if you broaden that out a bit, it would seem that the relationships the company has really have been and will be key. And we can mention here perhaps the Mineral Security Partnership and the Development Finance Corporation. How do you see these partnerships and relationships coming together with what you're doing at Blencowe more generally to create a successful company?
Yeah, it's a very good point that you make, because at the end of the day, these key relationships are absolutely critical to getting particular parts of the project up and working. So in the case of the MSP and the case of the Development Finance Corporation, they are partners that we think are going to be integral in the funding solution. Already we've received a $5 million grant from the DFC, but we see them as a cornerstone debt provider in our major funding solution to get the project up and working. So MSP hopefully will have a fund by next year, and we'll be able to look to get into funding from them as well. So these relationships are very important. At the end of the day, projects need to be funded, and it's not easy. It's a challenging part of the whole cycle to develop a project and then ultimately go and find partners who want to fund you and take you into production. So relationships are absolutely critical. I might add that the one that we've developed with this downstream SPG producer in order to get involved in this downstream beneficiation purification is absolutely absolute gold as well, because there are only a couple of them in the world and we've got one of the best. So we are big into developing key relationships, and we work very hard at it. They don't just happen overnight, but I think at the end of the day, all of them are going to be telling in terms of us being able to step over the top of many of our peers who are going to be standing still and unable to get into production. We want to be able to do that and do it successfully.
So now we talked at the top of the interview about the immense potential of Oram Cross. Before we close, Mike, perhaps you could just give us a little bit of an idea of the likely news flow and the development schedule for the project in the coming months and into next year.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, we've just put out 3 big initiatives. The first one being the downstream processing partnership, the second one being the mineral security partnership and our ability to get accredited and move into that space. And now the third one is this European bus initiative through SAFELOOP project. So we are making big strides in terms of finding ways and means by which we can differentiate and bring value to the company. We're going to incorporate all of these within our definitive feasibility study. We are embarking on a final drilling program, which we hope will substantially increment our JORC standard resource. But at the same time, in parallel, we're doing a feasibility study on the downstream processing, so that can also be incorporated into the overall DFS as well. So there's a lot of work going on. Behind all of that, there's a lot of offtake agreements that are being considered. We're talking to some very big names out there, some tier 1 OEMs that are very interested in our product. So it's a combination of all of the above: funding solutions, offtake agreements, downstream processing, joint ventures, and obviously these initiatives like SAFELOOP will just be continuing to work along in parallel, because once they come through the end, which is in a couple of years' time, once this Gen 3 battery has been developed, then we want to be ready to take advantage of it. And obviously we want to be in production or very near to production in order to scale up and incorporate that into our overall production strategy. So lots of news flow, as always, near term and going forward into the medium term as well.
Well, great to see so much activity from Blencowe. Thanks for joining us today, Mike.
Thank you very much for having me.